December 21st, 1640. Southern Atlantic Ocean. The Kingdom of Silkark. Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time of the year. The familiar tunes of the seasonal melody permeated the office, their cheerful rhythm bouncing off the Christmas tree that stood near the window. Orbs and miniature presents adorned the tree's branches, glinting under the soft glow of the twinkling lights. Ambassador Samuel Anders paused, taking in the sight. A soft sigh escaped his lips, the corners of his mouth turning upwards into a smile. Despite the miles separating him from his homeland, he felt a sense of contentment. Sure, it wasn't the same as spending Christmas with his wife back in Orange County, but Silkark had its own quaint charms. Plus, it was peaceful here, a stark contrast from the hustle and bustle that had consumed his life over the past months. He recalled his recent assignment, a series of high-stakes meetings with the Oni nation of Heiskanen and the Kingdom of Esperanto that sought to expand American investments in Gramius. Though both nations were thankful to the Americans for ousting the conniving Anonreals, there was still some lingering bad blood. Securing beneficial agreements with each individual nation was easy compared to resolving the animosity between the two factions. But he had done his duty. And now, after what felt like a lifetime of tension and challenge, he had been posted to Silkark. Here there was no urgent threat to parry, no impending war to avert. Instead, there was an almost idyllic peace, a serenity that seemed to seep into his very bones. It was a place that had the ambience of a tropical vacation, with its unique flora, warm hospitality of the locals, and the gentle lull of the ocean waves. Located a couple thousand miles off the coast of Florida, the Kingdom of Silkark was unremarkable, save for its extensive underwater oil deposits and caches of magical artifacts. It was curious to him why the government was willing to invest so much in this isolated island nation when they had resource-rich Gramius at their disposal and artifact-laden deals with the Mauritials. But then again, it didn't really matter if that meant he could finally have some time to relax. Taking a deep breath, Anders nodded to himself. This was good. This was just what he needed. A break from the roller coaster that had been his life. He hummed along to the melody now filling the room, moving to pour himself a cup of aromatic Quatonian tea, an imported delicacy he had come to enjoy. Just as he settled into his comfortable chair, ready to enjoy the next season of Manifest Fantasy, his phone buzzed. A call from the Department of State was the last thing he had expected here. As the annoyance of disruption slowly crept in, he glanced at the lit-up screen and sighed. Anders hesitated before picking up the phone, his fingers hovering over the glowing screen. He shot a longing look at the paused show before finally accepting the call. "Sam," came the gruff voice of Gordon Hayden, U.S. Secretary of State. The voice was filled with an unusual tension, the kind that only surfaced during critical situations. "Gordon," Anders replied, his tone professional. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" He could almost see Hayden's grimace through the phone. "We've got a situation," he said, urgency evident in his tone. Anders felt his stomach drop, his carefree mood evaporating. "What's going on?" "We've picked up a group of 3 unidentified airships," Hayden said succinctly, heading toward Silkark and traveling at about 150 miles per hour. Their fleet size suggests exploration or diplomacy. There was a moment of silence as Anders processed the information. "First contact?" he asked, slightly surprised. "Looks like it," Hayden replied. "I've just sent you an information package. Satellite imagery, radio signal analysis, the works. Start familiarizing yourself with it." Anders nodded, scrolling through the data on his monitor. He took particular interest in the images of the airships themselves, which resembled something he was familiar with. "Final Fantasy, huh? Any insight into their tech level?" "Not a lot," admitted Hayden. "But from their flight patterns and some of the other details, we might be looking at something on par with the Anonrials," Hayden continued, his voice stern. "You know the drill, Sam. We can't afford another Luria or Parpaldia." "I understand," Anders assured him, his voice steady despite the new development. "I'll start preparing." The line went dead, leaving Anders alone with his thoughts. His moment of tranquility had been shattered, replaced by a sense of disappointment and foreboding. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the task at hand. With newfound resolve, he switched off the Christmas music and closed the Manifest Fantasy window. It was time to get to work. Somewhere above Silkark New World Development Fleet Commander Jelmark observed the island below from the telescopic view screens of his flagship, examining the foreign architecture and infrastructure of the island. A majority of the structures below resembled centuries-old architectural styles from his nation's history books. However, there existed a handful of alien structures along the coasts and standing on the ocean itself, massive constructs of metal that clearly distinguished themselves from the other structures. Beside Jelmark stood Lenos, captain of the Darusin, the flagship of this exploration fleet. His expression mirrored the commander's, thoughtful and somewhat concerned. His fingers absent-mindedly brushed over a protective amulet around his neck, a symbol of Chryselian fortune. "It's different," he observed, his gaze flickering over the mechanistic outliers below. "They wield technology, but it feels bereft of the arcane." "Indeed," Jelmark agreed, his mind rife with speculation. "Their level of development mirrors ours, yet their methodology is predominantly mechanistic." An echo of silence filled the command deck as they each mulled over their observations. Drawing away from the viewport, Jelmark turned towards a new figure, Ambassador Liraz. "What is your reading on this, Liraz?" A woman of quick wit and a personal friend of the benevolent Princess Neith, Liraz paused to consider her response. "We should exercise caution. These people may not understand our reliance on the arcane. Remember, this mission was sanctioned by Minister Tatchell himself to seek out a peaceful, trade-based solution to our plight. We cannot afford to jeopardize it with premature assumptions." The reminder hung in the air, heavy with implications. Their expedition was not merely a quest for much-needed resources, but also a diplomatic endeavor, one that could result in mutual understanding or disaster. As the Chryselian fleet continued to cruise toward the island, a strange, garbled sound filled the communication console of the flagship. "What in the Creator's name?" Lenos started, his eyes darting to the console where the sound emerged from. His hand instinctively tightened on his amulet. Elena, the ship's lead magical technician, gasped in surprise. Every node on the console was lit, each one trying to make sense of the transmission. It was unlike any signal they had intercepted before. "That's not on any arcane wavelength." The revelation echoed what Jelmark and the others had already deduced. One of the factions below was indeed a mechanical civilization. "Can we establish contact with them?" Liraz asked. Elena, her fingers tracing intricate patterns over the console's crystalline nodes, nodded. "Our signals can be transmuted to match their communication wavelengths." With the decision made, Jelmark's gaze returned to the island, his thoughts heavy with contemplation. The inhabitants seemed to be blissfully unaware of the airships flying out of sight, except for the mysterious faction that managed to send them some sort of signal. He wondered how they could accomplish their mission and ease the economic turmoil back home with a third party in play. Do it. There was a brief moment as Elena worked on converting the radio signals to a frequency the console was familiar with. In mere seconds, the garble was transformed into comprehensible speech, the message clear and crisp. "Unidentified aircraft. This is U.S. Outpost Delta 4, under the authority of the United States Southern Command. You are on a course approaching Silkark's sovereign airspace. Please state your call sign, purpose of flight, and point of origin for identification and clearance purposes. Maintain your current altitude and heading until instructions are given. Over." Jelmark and Lenos shared a look of surprise. The mechanistic faction's alertness and rapid response exceeded their expectations. To maintain the peace, Jelmark decided to adhere to their communication protocol. "Esteemed Outpost Delta 4, I am Commander Jelmark of the Chryselian New World Development Fleet, hailing from our sacred kingdom of Great Chryseles. Our expedition is one of exploration, seeking peaceful discourse with your kind." A moment of silence ensued, a temporary void filled only with the hum of the ship's engines. After a few moments, the professional voice cut through the static again, this time bearing an undertone of relief. "Commander Gelmark, your peaceful intentions are appreciated. We're adjusting our alert status accordingly." Gelmark, relieved to hear the subtly relaxed tone of voice, sought to maintain the cooperative atmosphere. "We are unfamiliar with your world. It is a day of firsts for both of us." "Indeed, Commander," the reply came. "We suggest continuing our interaction on the ground. A landing zone has been arranged for your fleet. It is marked with bright blue lights. You shouldn't miss it. A pair of our aircraft will escort you." Acknowledging the guidance, Gelmark turned to Lenos, who returned the look with a nod of comprehension, ready to guide the fleet to the designated area. "We acknowledge your instructions. Outpost Delta 4. Our descent shall commence shortly." As the Chryselian fleet maintained its descent, an unexpected shift occurred within their monitoring systems. The static crackle of their communication console echoed within the bridge, followed by a new, unfamiliar voice. "Chryselian vessels, this is Fighter Flight Foxtrot 9 of the U.S. Southern Command. We are on an intercept course. This is standard safety protocol. Maintain your current course and speed." Despite the voice's message, their radar remained unsettlingly serene, devoid of any indicators of the proclaimed interceptors. Not even the Madar could detect the crafts or their pilots. Elena found the emptiness disconcerting, her instincts screaming that something was amiss, yet the screens told her otherwise. "Commander," she said hesitantly, casting a sidelong glance at Gelmark. "Our sensors show no incoming craft, but—" Gelmark, his eyes fixed on the silent radar, responded, "Elena, we can only trust what our systems tell us. Right now, they tell us there's nothing out there." Yet as the words left his lips, the peaceful panorama outside their viewports was disrupted. Materializing on either side of their fleet, a pair of sleek metallic aircraft emerged seemingly from the void itself. Their entrance was punctuated by an alien roar, a stark contrast to the hum of the Chryselian ship's arcane engines. For a moment, only the shared heartbeat of surprise echoed through the command deck. Gelmark found his voice first, his gaze still fixed on the sleek fighters. "Invisible! By the ancients, they were completely invisible to our systems." "A technology surpassing even the most advanced arcane," Elena whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and apprehension. The presence of these invisible aircraft, these metallic raptors, was an undeniable testament to their advanced capabilities. Still, despite the display of power, the jets did not exhibit aggression. They were a sign of vigilance, a testament to the desire for safety. As the mysterious flying machines escorted them, Gelmark found his excitement growing. This was turning into a truly fascinating expedition. With a shared sense of respect, the Chryselian ships adjusted their formation, making room for their silent escorts. "Ensure a comlink is maintained with Foxtrot 9. Their technology is beyond our understanding, but our mission is clear. We must continue to the landing zone," Gelmark ordered. As the airships neared the designated landing zone, the aircraft escorting them broke formation, with one maintaining a steady course beside the flagship and the other moving overhead. As the ground neared, they could see the details of the alien outpost. The runway was a strip of artificial stone, and the buildings were geometric and purpose-built. Around the runway, vehicles of different shapes and sizes moved to safe positions, their lights blinking in the early morning haze. There was purposeful chaos on the ground, indicative of their organized efficiency. The airship touched down smoothly, its gentle landing in stark contrast to the thunderous roar of the aircraft overhead. As the vibration of landing settled, Gelmark stood from his chair and straightened his uniform, preparing to disembark. "Open the hatch, Elena," he ordered, his tone filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Summoning America by Dr. Doritos, M.D. Chapter 147, Silkark Part 2. Southern Atlantic Ocean. The Kingdom of Silkark. "On behalf of the United States of America, welcome to Silkark, Commander Gelmark," the American representative said. "I'm Protocol Officer Eliza Davis, and I'll be handling your trip to the embassy." She reached out to shake hands with the Chryselian leader. "Please follow me. We have a vehicle for you." Commander Jailmark followed her lead. As they walked toward a sleek black car, his eyes flickered around the area, drinking in the sights of the civilization around them. Their landing zone stood in stark contrast to its surroundings, an island of concrete and technology amidst a sea of wood and peasantry. On the ground, the towers in the ocean looked even more massive, painting a surreal blend of mechanical constructs and historical villages. As Jailmark entered the vehicle, he noticed the furnished interior, leather seats, ambient music coming from within the car itself, and the cool breeze of air conditioning. While the vehicle itself was nothing special, he was surprised to see facets of Chryselian technology overseas, emulated without the use of the arcane. The expressions on his countrymen's faces were akin to his own, each describing their shock in silence. The ride to the embassy was comfortable and scenic, each passing moment building upon the mixed excitement and tension of this mission. Though the views of Silkarkian residences were rather mundane, each American structure told a unique story, with some indecipherable, even to Elena. Most were warehouses that complemented the expansive ports along the coasts. It didn't take a genius to realize that these were for commercial shipping, and that implied stores of natural wealth hiding under Silkark. A shame the Americans got to it first, Jailmark lamented. Upon arrival at the American embassy, Officer Davis guided them towards a pair of towering wooden doors sitting behind a classical colonnade. As the doors swung open, they were met by a tall man with sharp features, clad in a tailored suit, and a distinguished Silkarkian gentleman in an anachronistic yet stylish outfit of furs and jewelry. The suited man stepped forward. "Welcome to our embassy. I am Ambassador Samuel Anders, representing the United States of America," he began, his voice steady and a smile on his face. He gestured to the man on his left. "And I am Minister Kark, representing the Kingdom of Silkark," the other man spoke. Jailmark and the rest of the Chryselian delegation introduced themselves in kind, shaking hands with their hosts. "Once again, we're honored by your presence," Anders said, stepping aside to welcome the Chryselians further into the embassy. "We'll be introducing ourselves first, and once we're done with our discussions, you'll meet with Minister Kark again. This way, please." He gestured down a wide hallway adorned with polished wooden panels and tastefully displayed decorations. As they walked, the Chryselians cast curious glances at the displays, their minds drawing comparisons and contrasts with domestic pieces. The displays along the hallway ranged from paintings of figures and wars, long past, to posters of sprawling cities and vehicles. One such poster portrayed what the Chryselians could only surmise to be a ship, situated at the forefront of a background of twinkling stars amidst a black canvas. Only Jailmark and Elena recognized this setting. It was one of the heavens, the same heavens that their greatest airships failed to reach. "Your building is impressive," Ambassador Lyra stated, her eyes studying an oil painting depicting men armed with muskets, sailing across a river. Anders smiled. "We hoped it would make a good first impression. We've tried to incorporate elements that capture the essence of our nation." "Indeed," Elena noted, her eyes still glued to the poster of the strange craft in the heavens. "And I see you have made sure to highlight your technological prowess. A wise choice." "Yes, progress is one of our crowning virtues," Anders replied. He guided them around a corner into an expansive room lined with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering an impressive view of the Silkarkian capital in the distance. In the center of the room was a round table, set with refreshments and surrounded by high-backed chairs. "This is where we will hold our discussions. Please make yourself comfortable." "I trust we'll have productive discussions," Lyra said, taking a seat across from Anders. She nodded toward Minister Kark, a small smile curling her lips. "After all, we're here for the same goal, diplomacy." Anders nodded, taking a seat himself. "Yes, Ambassador. We're looking forward to understanding each other better. In that spirit, we've prepared a basic video to introduce ourselves." Commander Jailmark watched as Lyraz exchanged words with Anders, the diplomat from the strange and captivating mechanical land of America. The room itself was classy, a blend of beautifully archaic designs supported by modern amenities and devices. Adjacent to Anders and arrayed parallel to the semicircle that the Chryselian delegation found itself seated in, a large black mirror flickered to life. It seemed to serve a purpose similar to the crystalline windows back home. It was a device for displaying images. "I trust you find our presentation device satisfactory," Anders said. As Anders spoke, brilliant light filled the room, vibrant colors dancing on the astonished faces of the Chryselians. On the screen, a crystal-clear image appeared, the word welcome glittering in front of a greenish statue standing like a guardian for the urban megalopolis behind her. "Welcome, distinguished guests from the sacred kingdom of Great Chryseles, to the United States of America," the screen spoke. "Our nation is a tapestry of landscapes and peoples, united under the banner of freedom and liberty." An image of a coastline appeared, the bright blue ocean lapping against sandy beaches. From the rolling waves of our Pacific coastline, the image morphed into a forest teeming with wildlife, to the vast expanses of our unspoiled wilderness. Mountains cascaded across the screen next, their snow-capped peaks reaching for the sky. "The majestic peaks of our Rocky Mountains," the voiceover continued, as the image morphed again, this time into an expansive canyon that cut through the land like a massive scar, and the arid beauty of the Grand Canyon. The visual journey morphed into cityscapes, structures reaching greater heights than even the tallest tower in Chryseles. Our cities, modern and historic, echo the resilience and pioneering spirit of our people. Innovations in architecture, technology, and culture reflect our belief in progress and unity. Each region, each city, the voiceover continued as images of bustling city streets and quiet rural towns succeeded each other, is a testament to the diversity and dynamism that define us. It was a mesmerizing presentation, appealing and awe-inspiring. They had only seen mere scenery, and yet Jailmark and his colleagues could already sense the staggering difference between their own nation and the United States. The voiceover fell silent as the screen moved to a final shot, an image of Elysia from space, with the United States and her holdings clearly outlined. The room lapsed into a stunned silence as the Chryselians were met with the sight of Elysia, its sapphire and emerald hues reflected on the screen. The rest of the world was truly massive, and the reach of U.S. influence was mind-boggling. In comparison, Chryseles was a speck, the tiny island nation barely visible on the screen. Commander Jailmark stared at the screen, his heart pounding in his chest. The image was so clear, so pristine. It was as though he was looking out of a window than at a screen. He'd never seen his world from such a perspective, not even aboard their experimental airships. The realization of the technological capabilities of the Americans, the extent of their mastery over their environment, hit Jailmark like a physical blow. They could reach the heavens, capture images of such astounding beauty and clarity, and project them into a room thousands of miles away. It was nothing short of miraculous, yet it was only the beginning. The video continued, this time diving into American history. The screen filled with rapidly changing images, each scene narrating a segment of history. A timeline appeared on one side of the screen, marking the significant epochs with clear, bold labels. A dramatic voiceover accompanied the visuals, explaining the timeline in brief but compelling terms. In the year of our Lord, 1776, the United States of America declared its independence, founding a new nation built on the principles of liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness, it began, showing an image of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The Chryselian delegation watched as the timeline moved swiftly through the major historical periods of the United States, the expansion westward during the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution and its accompanying boom in technology and infrastructure, the devastating Civil War and the Reconstruction era that followed. The 20th century brought new layers of complexity and advancement. As the timeline approached the mid-20th century, the screen shifted to depict a somber period in human history. The world plunged into the Second World War, with the United States playing a significant role in the global conflict. World War II, the voiceover explained, was a cataclysmic event that reshaped our world. An image of an unfamiliar planet appeared, a world similar to Elysia. Our nation's involvement in the conflict not only marked a pivotal moment in our history, but also led to significant technological advancements. Images of soldiers, tanks, and planes dominated the screen, interspersed with clips of speeches from American leaders of the time. Then, a quieter image appeared, a group of scientists hard at work in a lab. The narration continued. Among these advancements was the development of nuclear technology. Commander Jelmark tensed slightly, and he noted similar reactions among his team. This was a significant revelation. The video showed a series of controlled nuclear tests, the massive mushroom clouds, and the resulting devastation a testament to the destructive power the Americans had harnessed. The screen transitioned to more peaceful scenes, displaying the use of nuclear technology for power generation. Elena leaned in towards Jelmark, her voice low. These nuclear weapons, they appear to function similarly to core magic. The energy released, it's comparable, perhaps even greater, she observed, her expression a mix of fascination and concern. Jelmark nodded, taking in this critical information. It was a good thing their orders were straight from Divine King Gouge, and not a warmonger like Minute. We realize the potential for destruction that nuclear technology holds, Anders said, breaking the silence that had fallen upon the room. But we also acknowledge its capacity for progress. As the imagery of nuclear tests and power plants faded, the video smoothly transitioned into the next segment, scenes of grand buildings, massive monuments, and bustling streets. Our government, the narrator began, is based on the principles of democracy. Our citizens have the right to vote and influence their nation's path, a system that has been in place for more than 2 centuries. Images of ordinary Americans casting votes and speaking at public meetings underscored the narrator's words. The scene shifted to the interior of a massive building, filled with rows of seated individuals. Congress. As the video explained the American system of checks and balances as well as their style of government, Jelmark exchanged glances with Liraz. The concept of democracy was not new to them. They had encountered it in some form or another in their encounters with nearby civilizations. However, the scope and complexity of the American system was something else entirely. With the concept of American governance etched onto their minds, the screen shifted again. A graphical representation of coins and notes adorned the screen, symbolizing wealth and economic strength. Our economy is one of the most robust and diverse in the world. We're blessed with abundant natural resources, a dedicated and intelligent workforce, and a strong industrial and technological sector. The screen showcased grand factories with bustling assembly lines, vast stretches of farmland, busy cityscapes, and an array of technological marvels. A series of shots demonstrated American technological prowess, robotics to satellites and space stations. Our gross domestic product, or GDP, is the highest globally, the narrator explained, a series of graphs and figures illustrating the point. As the concept of dollars may be unfamiliar to you, our GDP would be equivalent to billions of tons of gold. A pause was given for the Chryselians to digest the numbers before the video continued. Our agricultural sector produces enough food to feed not just our own population, but over 1 billion more. Our manufacturing sector produces a wide range of goods that are exported across the globe, making us Elysia's leading exporters. Jelmark shared a glance with Liraz. Their economy was impressive, yes, but the Americans' claims were beyond anything they had anticipated. They had a feeling the world was much larger than they knew, based on their mathematical calculations, but seeing the scale of it all in person was something else. Our technological sector is at the forefront of global advancements, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. The scene shifted again, showing a room filled with supercomputers, followed by images of advanced aircraft and rocket ships launching into the heavens. The sheer variety and depth of their technological achievements were immense. As the video concluded the economy and technology section, Commander Jelmark found himself leaning back in his seat, deeply absorbed in his thoughts. In one short presentation, the Americans had showcased an underlying strength in all sectors that was impossible to ignore. It was a lot to take in, but one thing was clear. Underestimating these people would be a serious mistake. He glanced over at Liraz, noting the quiet concentration on her face. She too was absorbing the implications, calculating the balance of power. This was not a civilization they could intimidate with a show of force. The Chryselian navy, as formidable as it was, would be seen for what it was, a blunt instrument of force. While they constructed weapons of terror, the Americans constructed weapons of war, coldly efficient in annihilating their enemies. He found his mind racing back to their earlier conversations about Silkark. How did Silkark fit into all of this? They were allies, or at least partners, of this formidable nation. Yet there was a vast gap in their capabilities, similar to the ones present in the Chryselian vassal nations. If the Silkarkians were indeed a vassal of sorts under the umbrella of American influence, then they may as well abandon any dreams of conquest and focus on commerce with this economic titan. The video continued, describing details about America's population. The United States is home to over 340 million individuals, each with their own unique story, origins, and dreams. The true strength of the United States is found not in uniformity, but in unity. Despite our many differences, we stand united under common ideals and the pursuit of shared goals. As the voice echoed, the camera zoomed into scenes that embodied these ideals. Laboratories filled with dedicated researchers, elven paramedics casting healing magic, powerful beastmen training at a facility, and music venues alive with energy, passion, and magical displays of light. We are a nation that values the power of knowledge, cherishes the pursuit of truth, and believes in the potential of every individual to make a difference. We're a beacon of opportunity, drawing the innovative and the visionary from across the globe. We are a shining city upon a hill, a beacon that attracts the best and brightest from all corners of the world. Gelmark equated this to the desire he once had of journeying to the kingdom's glorious capital, Kaider. Except this was on a far greater scale, one that dwarfed even the greatest of Chryselian ambitions. The screen shifted, settling on a powerful view of a rocket soaring into the sky, its fiery trail illuminating the night. Clearly, this was a subject the Americans were proud about. Our exploration of space mirrors our spirit of discovery and ambition, of reaching beyond our earthly limitations to unlock new horizons. And yet, as we reach for the stars, we remain firmly grounded, ever vigilant in the defense of our nation. The presentation finally showcased the Americans' military capabilities, from naval armadas slicing through the ocean to sleek metallic raptors soaring in formation across a clear sky. It was a show of might, subtly but powerfully communicated. An economy born from our innovation and resilience, the narration continued, showing images of bustling malls, high-tech factories, and expansive agricultural fields. We have built a system that not only sustains our people, but influences across the world. A series of arrows sprouted from an image of the United States, striking far-off continents to the west. As the voiceover fell silent, the screen transitioned to a time-lapse clip of a city at night. We are a nation built on the principles of unity and diversity, the home to the best and brightest in the entire world. The screen showed an image of the globe, a glowing blue orb suspended in the darkness of space, the United States outlined in a soft, radiant glow, similar to the visual from the beginning of the presentation. We are the United States of America, champions of liberty, pioneers of the future, and protectors of peace. And we extend a hand of friendship, of collaboration and dialogue. We value peace, but we remain prepared for war. Our strength is our promise, to ourselves and to the world. As the screen faded to black, the room fell into a hushed silence, the impact of the video resonating within the room. The American spirit of strength and ambition, of freedom and unity, echoed their might in an enlightening and cooperative manner. It was an offer of partnership, veiled in a display of power and potential. It was a clear message. Be our friends, and we shall offer you gifts beyond your wildest imaginations. Stand against us. Well, it was self-explanatory. Jailmark looked down, his mind whirring with the intensity of 1,000 stars. He looked at his compatriots, their expressions all saying the same thing. The United States was not an enemy to conquer. It was an ally to court. They would need to shed their preconceived notions, reshape their strategies, and most of all, convince the prideful and stubborn officials within Minute's faction of the folly of conflict. They needed to see for themselves just how powerful and cooperative these people were.